Now it's former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Secretary Pompeo, always good to have you with us. Thank you for being here.
Great to be with you, Martha.
Your thoughts on any of the above? What stands out to you?
Well, you began the conversation around these issues in Iran. Yeah. Today we had apparently Iranian-backed militias attacking our embassy in Baghdad. I've seen a little clip of the video where they're now threatening to kill President Trump and myself.
You have seen that video?
And yet we have negotiators.
Can you tell me about
we have negotiators sitting at the table in Vienna.
All right. Can you tell me about that video? What was your impression of it? What's in it?
Look, the reporting says it was a video in a contest, but the Iranian government itself, the Quds Force leaders themselves, have made clear that they want vengeance against President Trump and me for the strike that was taken against General Soleimani, who was threatening American lives. President Trump made the right decision. I recommended it to him. We kept Americans safe. We were always prepared to do that. And today we've got negotiators sitting with the Iranians willing to give them money, resources, power, tools to continue to go build out their terror network around the world. It's an enormous mistake. It puts our great ally Israel at risk. It puts our Gulf state friends in Saudi Arabia and the Emirates at risk, and Bahrain and Kuwait, all throughout the region. And it certainly puts America at risk as well. I can't figure out for the life of me why we're sitting in Vienna negotiating with an Iranian regime that is, as we sit there, attacking our diplomats in Baghdad and threatening former senior American officials.
This is a soundbite from Jen Psaki. Is this from just now, you guys? Or okay, this one's from yesterday, and this is with regard to the JCPOA and the Trump administration pulling out of that agreement. Here's what she had to say then.
The fact that the former president ripped at the nuclear deal meant that Iran's nuclear program was no longer in a box, no longer had the most robust inspection regime ever negotiated, no longer had the tight restrictions on nuclear activity.
What do you say to that, sir?
Yeah, she's living in a fantasy world, disconnected from the reality that was the JCPOA. It created a clear, maybe a bit delayed, but a clear path for a nuclear weapon. Not only that, but an entire program of nuclear weapons, Martha, that the Iranians would have had possession of. It's now 7 years on since the original signing of that, or almost 7 years. It was signed in 2015. Many of those terms have expired. And this administration appears to be begging the Iranians to re-enter an agreement that will run out in just a handful of years. It doesn't prevent the cataclysmic risk associated with Iran having a nuclear weapon. We were right to get out. Had we had 4 more years, I am confident the Ayatollah would have been faced with an incredible decision, difficult decision about whether to capitulate at risk to his continued authority or to sign a deal with the Trump administration. I think they would have done that, and we would have gotten a deal that actually precluded Iran from enriching uranium in a way that threatened Israel and the United States.
Well, Ned Price talked about that. He said, the Trump administration kept promising that there was going to be a better agreement, but it never happened. We never saw it.
I wish we'd have had another 365 days or another 4 years, Martha. I'm confident that we had Iran on its knees. They had less than 10% of the foreign exchange reserves left for themselves. We had denied them millions of barrels of oil sales, and this administration is already not enforcing those sanctions. Iran is under less threat. The regime is under less threat today than it was when we were there. We supported the Iranian people. This administration has chosen to take a different tack and is giving resources to the kleptocrats, the theocrats running Iran today.
So you heard John Kirby from the Pentagon say that the situation with Russia is clearly not de-escalating. And you have these suggestions by the Russian deputy foreign minister that if they don't get what they want in terms of NATO backing down on their borders, they would consider putting military infrastructure into Venezuela or Cuba. What do you think?
Clearly not de-escalating. John's been at this a long time. That's pretty diplomatic language. Clearly not de-escalating when Vladimir Putin believes that he can run roughshod and continue to exert coercive control. Martha, you were talking about this earlier this week. He's doing this in Kazakhstan. He did it in Belarus. This administration's let him close down the pipelines that were in the southeast part of the United States and did almost nothing in response. This kind of weakness creates the situation where they'll threaten to put real resources right in our space, right in Venezuela, right in Cuba. These are real risks. When you have deterrence, when you have leadership that's prepared to protect American interests, you can prevent Vladimir Putin from even thinking about heading down that path. I hope this administration will grab the right end of the stick and begin to use American power, economic power, diplomatic power, all the tools that we have available, building out alliances and preventing Vladimir Putin from continuing to use coercive authority to gain power, strength, and the ability to impact so many lives across the world and threaten America too.
Wendy Sherman, who was also the lead negotiator or one of the top negotiators in the JCPOA Iran agreement, is the lead negotiator in the discussions that are going on with Russia. What do you think about the fact that she said that the United States is open to discussions on the placement of missiles in Europe?
I suppose if you got the right commitment from the Russians and the Chinese about their nuclear programs and their nuclear capabilities and their strategic and operational missile systems as well, I suppose you could imagine that. But Ms. Sherman being there doesn't give me much hope for that. She not only was involved in the JCPOA, Martha, but she negotiated a nuclear deal with the North Koreans that was eviscerated immediately after it was entered into, and that administration, that Democrat administration, did nothing. We shouldn't let the Russians dictate our policy. We should be about building out a defensive and deterrence capability in Europe and around the world. That's how the Trump administration thought about this. I hope this administration will begin to think about delivering real deterrence and protecting America in the way that we need to.
Secretary Pompeo, thank you. Always good to have you here, sir.
Thank you, Martha. Thanks for letting me on today.
You bet.
Have a good day.
Good to have you as always.